My son, not knowing that my pay had just soared to $75,000 a month, yelled, "Get out, you broke loser," and doused me in scalding coffee. I left without a word. But the following day, his face went pale when I rolled up in a brand new luxury sports car. And what happens when your own family, the people you gave everything for, treat you like dirt, like a useless burden, until one day, the universe decides to serve up a dish of pure, unadulterated comeuppance. Trust me, you won't believe how my life flipped, or who ended up begging for help. My name is Gwendolyn Taft, and I'm 68 years old. You know, most people my age are supposed to be enjoying their golden years, spoiling grandkids, finally relaxing. Me? I was sitting in my eldest son's guest room, jumping at every single creak on the stairs, my heart pounding. How did I end up there, you ask? Well, let me tell you. My whole life, I was an accountant for Pierce Construction in San Antonio. Not glamorous, but it was stable. And stability became everything when my husband, Lester, died so suddenly. He was only in his 40s. I remember it like yesterday. He came home, complained of heartburn, took a pill, then just slumped in his chair. Gone. Just like that. I was left alone with 3 children, 8, 12, and 14, and a mortgage. Raymond Pierce, my boss, was my salvation. He was kind, understanding. He let me work from home, helped with emergencies. I worked for him for 34 years. He was more than a boss, he was a lifeline. My kids? They all grew up so differently. My middle child, Sybil, she's the sensitive one. An elementary school teacher, married to a programmer named Dominic. 2 beautiful kids, Oliver and June. They live in Portland, and Sybil calls constantly, sending me packages, cards. My youngest, Frank, he got Lester's knack for electronics. He's an engineer in Chicago. He doesn't call as much as Sybil, but bless his heart, he sends me money every month, even when I tell him I'm fine. He's finding his way after a divorce last year. He sounds a bit lost sometimes, but he's adjusting. Then there's Harlan, my eldest. From day one, he was a challenge. Impulsive. Stubborn. Always lying about small things. Lester was better with his temper. After Lester died, I didn't always have the strength or the patience. Maybe I made mistakes raising him. Or maybe he was just born that way. He works as an insurance appraiser and married Daisy when he was 26. Daisy, she always had these airs about her, like she belonged in high society, even though she was just a fitness club administrator. They have 2 kids, Elliot, 15, and Nora, 13. Moving in with them wasn't a sudden choice. After I retired 3 years ago, I stayed in my little house, the one I finally paid off. My pension was modest, barely enough. I picked up some consulting work for small businesses to make ends meet. But then last fall, disaster struck. A flood. My basement and first floor were ruined. Insurance covered only part of it. I blew almost all my savings, and what little was left barely covered my bills. I was staring at my grandmother's silver, wondering what I could get for it, when Harlan called. "Mom," he said, and I swear, his voice had this uncharacteristic concern. "How would you feel about moving in with us? The kids miss their grandma and Daisy, and I would feel so much better with you around. Plus, we could rent out your house for an extra income." I hesitated. My relationship with Harlan had always been rocky, and Daisy and I barely exchanged 2 words at family gatherings. But he kept pushing. And eventually I gave in. I sold most of my furniture, rented out my house for just enough to cover taxes and insurance, and moved with 2 suitcases into Harlan's house on the outskirts of San Antonio. The first few days? Honestly, they were better than I expected. Daisy was almost friendly. She showed me to the guest room, gave me a shelf in the fridge. My grandkids, who I barely saw, were polite, if a little wary. Harlan even put his arm around me and said, "Don't worry about a thing, Mom. Just live and enjoy yourself." I actually started to relax. But that feeling didn't last. On the 3rd evening, we were in the backyard. Daisy was barbecuing, the kids were playing, and Harlan and I were drinking lemonade. Then he drops it, so casually. "By the way, Mom," he says, "Daisy and I work a lot. The kids are teenagers now, they need supervision." Would you mind picking them up from school and making dinner sometimes? Just a couple of times a week when we have late shifts. Of course, I said yes. I was living there for free, right? Helping with the grandkids was the least I could do. But a couple of times a week quickly became every single day. Daisy started staying late at work, then signed up for manicure and pedicure classes. I need to develop professionally, Gwen, she'd say, then add yoga classes for her mental balance. Before the first month was out, I was cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, doing laundry, ironing, cleaning the whole house, picking up the kids, helping with homework, driving them to activities. I was a full-time, unpaid servant. And my opinions? They meant nothing. Any suggestion from me was met with irritation. One day, I made my mother's famous casserole for dinner. Daisy just grimaced. "What is this disgusting stuff?" "You know I don't eat gluten." I stammered, "But there's no gluten. It's just vegetables, cheese." She cut me off. I said I don't eat it. Then she turned to the kids. "Shall we order pizza?" They cheered. Harlan didn't even look up from his phone. Another time, I saw Elliot's shirts were all worn out, so I bought him a new one for a school holiday. He was so proud, showing it off, but Harlan exploded. "What are you doing? Are you trying to make it look like we can't provide for our own son? Give that rag back and stay out of our business." I tried to explain, I just wanted to help. It's good quality. "Who cares?" he roared, throwing the shirt on the floor. "We don't need your charity." He didn't speak to me for a week after that. Daisy, of course, took every opportunity to make snide remarks about certain pensioners sticking their noses where they don't belong. The worst part? My grandchildren adopted their parents' attitudes so quickly. At first, they at least said hello. But soon, I became invisible. Elliot, thinking I couldn't hear him, called me an old hag. Nora wrinkled her nose and said I smelled old. It cut deep. I tried talking to Harlan, but he just brushed me off. "Stop being so dramatic, Mom. You live in our house for free, so be thankful." My only escape was those phone calls from Sybil and Frank. Sybil always started with, "Mom, how are you really feeling?" She listened, truly listened, to my careful, non-complaining answers. I didn't want to cause trouble between the siblings, but I think she sensed something was very wrong. "Mom, you don't have to live with Harlan," she'd say. "Dominic and I would love for you to move in with us." I'd joke. "Portland's too damp for my joints, dear. Plus, you've got enough kids already." Frank, less perceptive but just as caring, always offered money. "Mom, I can send you more. Just tell me how much." "I have everything I need, son," I'd reply. "You better buy yourself something nice." These warm calls only made life at Harlan's house feel even more suffocating. I was just an unwelcome guest, tolerated only for the benefits I provided. Daisy would openly tell her friends on the phone how lucky she was to have a free housekeeper and babysitter. And Harlan? If I dared ask for a tiny favor, like a ride to the clinic, he'd sigh dramatically and roll his eyes. "Don't I have anything else to do? Call a taxi." By the end of the third month, I was desperate. I seriously considered breaking my lease and moving back into my empty, flooded house. Debts be damned. But then, out of nowhere, a phone call came that changed everything. It was a Tuesday around 5 p.m. Daisy wasn't home. The kids were at practice. Harlan wouldn't be back until 8. I was cooking dinner when my old, clunky phone rang. Unfamiliar number. I almost let it go to voicemail. Scammers called constantly, you know? But some flicker of intuition, made me answer. "Gwendolyn, this is Raymond Pierce. I don't know if you remember your old boss." It was him. Raymond. His voice was weaker than I remembered, raspy, with that slight Texas drawl, but it was definitely him. I was shocked. "Of course, Mr. Pierce. How are you?" "Been better, Gwendolyn. Been better." He sighed, a deep, tired sound. "Listen, we need to talk. It's important. Not something for the phone. Can you come to the office tomorrow at 10 a.m.? My mind raced. Tomorrow was Wednesday. Nora needed picking up from school at 2, then piano lessons. "Mr. Pierce, tomorrow. I have family obligations." "Gwendolyn, this is really important," he pleaded, his voice almost cracking. I wouldn't ask if there was anyone else. His desperation was clear. I made a snap decision. "All right, Mr. Pierce. I'll be there. Thank you, Gwendolyn, he said, and then, be prepared for a serious conversation. He hung up, leaving me completely bewildered. We hadn't spoken since I retired. What on earth could be so important that he needed me? And why did he sound so doomed? That night, I barely slept. My mind just raced, trying to make sense of Raymond's call. I woke at 5 a.m., long before anyone else, made breakfast for the family, and got ready. The old Pierce construction office was in the same building, but inside? It was a different world. Glass walls, trendy coffee machines, young, bustling employees glued to their tablets. The reception desk had this girl with bright red hair and piercings, a far cry from the stern Mrs. Becker I remembered. I have an appointment with Mr. Pierce, I told her, Gwendolyn Taft. She barely glanced up, gave me a quick once-over, and pointed. 4th floor. He's waiting. Up in the elevator, I nervously smoothed down my old tweed jacket. I'd bought it when I worked there, still looked decent, but I felt so out of place. Raymond's office was different too, bigger, modern, with huge windows overlooking San Antonio. But Raymond himself, he looked so much worse. Gaunt. His hair completely gray. Deep shadows under his eyes. He limped when he stood to greet me. Gwendolyn, he exclaimed, his warmth genuine, unexpected. How wonderful to see you. Please sit. He moved around his massive desk, sitting beside me, dissolving the formal distance. You haven't changed a bit, he smiled weakly. But you. I started, then bit my tongue. I didn't want to be tactless. He waved a dismissive hand. I look terrible, I know. Pancreatic cancer. Late stage. Doctors say 3 to 6 months. My breath hitched. I pressed a hand to my mouth. Raymond had always been so full of life, so vibrant. To see him like this, it was heartbreaking. I'm so sorry, I whispered. Don't be, he said, a faint smile. I've had a good life. Built a business, raised a daughter, played with my grandkids. But that's not why I called. He paused, gathering strength. Gwendolyn, the company is in danger. He explained that after his diagnosis, he'd started preparing to sell, wanting to protect his employees and family. But his CFO, Vernon Gray, do you remember him? He asked. I nodded. Slick, Wall Street type. Hired a few years before I left. Raymond continued, his voice dropping. He's cooking the books. Hiding assets, underreporting profits, fictitious debts. He's setting it up to buy the company for pennies after I'm gone. My stomach churned. I have proof, he said, but I need someone who understands all his schemes, someone who can fix this before the sale. And you thought of me? I asked, completely stunned. But I've been retired for 3 years. Everything's changed, new programs, new regulations. Raymond reached out, covering my hand with his. His skin was dry, feverish. Gwendolyn, you're the best accountant I've ever worked with. Sharp mind. Tremendous integrity. I trust you more than anyone in this company. He squeezed my hand tighter. Listen, I'm offering you the position of Chief Financial Officer. Full access to everything. Signing authority. And a salary of $75,000 a month. I gasped. $75,000 a month. It was astronomical. More than I'd earned in a year. That's impossible. I breathed. You could hire anyone from Wall Street for that kind of money. That's where Vernon came from, Raymond said with a bitter smile. No. I need someone I can trust. Someone who knows this company inside and out and won't sell it out for their own gain. He handed me a folder. Here. A 6-month contract. That should be enough time to get everything in order for an honest sale. Take a look. Think about it, but don't drag your feet. Time is against us. My hands trembled as I took the folder. It felt unreal, like something out of a movie. $75,000 a month. For 6 months, that was more than I'd made in my last 10 years of work. What about Vernon? I asked, still reeling. He just gave up his position, Raymond said, a faint smile touching his lips. I fired him this morning. Security is already packing his things. He'll threaten to sue, of course, but I have enough evidence of his shenanigans that he'll prefer to leave quietly. I need to think about it, I managed, my head spinning. Of course, Raymond nodded. But I hope you'll agree. You're the only one who can save what I've built my whole life. I walked home in a daze, the folder with that contract burning a hole in my bag. A million thoughts spun in my head. This was it. A chance for financial independence, yes, but more than that, a chance to help Raymond, a man who'd always been good to me. But at my age, could I handle that kind of responsibility? I paused outside Harlan's house, taking a shaky breath. I needed an excuse for my absence. Nora would have been home from school by now, probably already complaining. And I was right. Daisy confronted me the second I stepped inside. "Where have you been?" she snapped. Nora had to take the bus. She missed her piano lesson. I had to go to the clinic, I lied, quickly concocting a story. No way was I telling them about Raymond's offer. A spot with a cardiologist opened up suddenly. I'd been waiting 2 months. "And you couldn't have warned us?" she yelled, arms crossed. "I missed an important client meeting because of you." I had to pick up Nora. I tried to call, I continued my charade, but my phone died. "I'm so sorry, Daisy. It won't happen again." "Like hell it won't," she snorted. "Harlan's going to be furious." And he was. That evening, I endured a long, angry tirade from my son about my irresponsibility and ingratitude. "We took you in, Mom. Gave you a roof over your head. And what do? Let us down at the first opportunity," he shouted, spittle flying. "Harlan," I explained, "I don't care about your explanations." He slammed his fist on the table. "Either you do your job, or pack your things and go back to your hole." I just lowered my head. It was useless to argue when he was like that. Besides, my mind was elsewhere, on that contract in my bag. Later that night, when the house was finally quiet, I pulled out the documents. Under the dim light of a small lamp, I studied them. The terms were beyond generous. That incredible salary, premium health insurance, a company car, a bonus if the sale went well. No hidden clauses. Compensation if they terminated early. I spent a sleepless night weighing everything. By morning, my decision was made. I would accept. This wasn't just about helping Raymond. It was about reclaiming my life. First thing, after Harlan, Daisy, and the kids left, I called Raymond. "I accept," I said, no preamble needed. "Great," his voice sounded so relieved. "When can you start?" "Tomorrow. 9 a.m. "Wonderful, Gwendolyn." "Thank you." After hanging up, I started planning. My first thought, should I tell my family? After Harlan's outburst, no. Not yet. Not with Harlan and Daisy. I could already hear the demands for money for repairs, a new car, private school. No. I needed to get on my feet, save enough for my own place. So, I invented a cover story. I'd signed up as a volunteer at the local library, sorting books, helping visitors. It sounded plausible for an older woman, and it would explain my weekday absences. That evening, I casually dropped it into conversation at dinner. "The library?" Harlan asked, mouthful. "Why would you do that?" "Oh, just to get out of the house," I shrugged, trying to sound nonchalant. "Be around people." "Who's going to pick up the kids?" Daisy chimed in instantly. "And cook dinner?" I arranged to work part-time. I lied smoothly. "I'll be done by 2, so I'll still have time." Harlan and Daisy exchanged glances, clearly unhappy, but they couldn't really argue. It was unpaid, after all. "Just don't let it interfere with your duties here," Harlan warned. "We didn't take you in so you could entertain yourself with books." "Of course, dear," I said meekly, biting back the truth about my new salary. The next day, I was back at Pierce Construction. Those first few weeks were a whirlwind. Learning new software, untangling Vernon's complex schemes, trying to connect with coworkers who eyed me with poorly concealed skepticism. But slowly, it started to click. My decades of experience proved invaluable. I knew the company's history, its clients, its unspoken rules. Accounting was my strength, and Vernon's clever schemes? They were easy to unravel once you knew where to look. Raymond, despite his fading health, came in every other day, spending hours with me, guiding me, supporting me. "You're doing even better than I expected, Gwendolyn," he told me after a particularly successful board meeting. "I knew I was right about you." His words meant more than all the money in the world. For the first time in so long, I felt truly needed, competent, respected. It was an intoxicating feeling, a stark contrast to the way I was treated at home. At home, though, it just got worse. Daisy, annoyed that my volunteering took me away from household chores, became even more nitpicky. "You oversalted the soup again," she'd grimace. "The laundry isn't properly ironed. Maybe spend less time with your books and more time taking care of the family that took you in." Harlan, of course, always backed her up. "Mom, you've been so distracted lately. Forgot my favorite cheese. Didn't write down a message from my boss. It's all because of your stupid library. Maybe stop playing charity?" But the worst came from my grandchildren. Once they realized their parents wouldn't reprimand them, they dropped all pretense of politeness. One day, I caught Nora rummaging through my bag. "What are you doing?" I asked, my heart jumping. There was a pay slip in there. "Looking for money," she said cheekily. "I need a new phone case." "Nora, you can't just take people's things," I said, carefully pulling my bag away. "If you need money, ask your parents." "What could I possibly take from you?" she snorted. "You have nothing. You're a bum." I froze. A bum. Before I could even react, Daisy walked in. "What's going on here?" "Grandma won't give me money," Nora whined. "And she's hiding her stupid bag. She was rummaging through my things." I tried to explain. "What secrets could you possibly have?" Daisy cut me off, her voice sharp. "You live in our house, eat our food. If my daughter asks for something, you help her. No buts." She poked me with her finger. "Give her the money for the cover. I don't think you have anything more important to spend it on." Silent, trembling, I pulled out my wallet and handed Nora $20. Money I'd saved for new tights. She snatched it with a triumphant grin and ran off. "And remember," Daisy added, "no secrets in my house." "Got it." After she left, I sank onto my bed, trying to stop my hands from shaking. I needed a more secure place for my work documents. Another time, Elliot accidentally spilled orange juice all over my favorite blouse, the one I'd just had dry cleaned for an important investor meeting. "Oh, I'm sorry," he mumbled, but his eyes gleamed with mischief. "I didn't notice." "It's okay," I sighed, knowing it wasn't an accident. The little monster looked too pleased. "Come on, Mom," Harlan interjected as I tried to wash the stain. "It's just an old rag. You can buy yourself a new one someday." They both laughed, father and son, exchanging knowing glances. I said nothing, but a knot of hurt and pure fury tightened in my chest. That night, lying in bed, I finally let myself think. Really think. About what my new salary meant. A beautiful apartment. A car. Travel. Helping Sybil and Frank. Cutting off Harlan and Daisy completely. It was intoxicating. Dizzying. I fell asleep with a smile, imagining Harlan's face when he found out. But by morning, common sense kicked in. I had to be careful. Save enough. Find a place. Maybe talk to a lawyer about my will. I didn't want Harlan to get a penny of my money after I died. So, I kept enduring the daily humiliation. Every morning, I went to my library, worked myself to the bone at the office, then came home to cook, clean, and listen to their endless complaints and ridicule. It felt like living two separate lives, a successful CFO by day, a powerless servant by night. It was exhausting. But the thought of what was coming kept me going. "Hang in there, Gwendolyn," Raymond would say, noticing the dark circles under my eyes. "You're doing an incredible job. Just a little more, and we'll pull the company out of this." I'd just smile, grateful, not burdening him with my home life. He had enough to worry about. Raymond was fading, day by day. He held on by sheer force of will. At home, new trials awaited. Daisy decided I should also clean the garage and backyard. "You sit in your library all day," she'd announce. "Consider it compensation for your absence." "But I do all the housework already." I tried to argue. "And the library is work, even if it's unpaid. Who needs your fussing with books?" Daisy snapped. "You live here for free, so be nice and work for it." I just gritted my teeth. Silence. My days blurred into an endless marathon. Up at 5 a.m., breakfast for everyone, pack lunches, then sneak out while they slept. A quick coffee at a cafe, a small luxury I could now afford, then at my desk by 8:30, diving into financial reports. Vernon had left a colossal mess of fake documents, hidden accounts, confusing transactions. But I was untangling it, piece by methodical piece. "Gwendolyn, you're a miracle." Raymond beamed, reviewing my reports. "You've done more in 3 weeks than Vernon did in 3 years. "I just know the company," I shrugged, but inside, I was bursting with pride. By early June, we'd exposed most of Vernon's schemes, restored supplier relationships, recovered assets. The hardest part was over. With my first full paycheck, I indulged. A new smartphone, replacing my ancient flip phone. Some nice cosmetics. A salon visit for a modern haircut and color to cover the gray. The rest went into a separate account, building my escape fund. Daisy noticed. "Did you get your hair done?" she asked, squinting one evening. "And is that a new phone?" "Yes," I said, trying to sound casual. "Volunteer event at the library, free haircuts from students. And Sybil gave me the phone for my birthday." "Your birthday's in November," Daisy said dryly. "Belated gift," I quickly countered. She was saving up for it. Daisy didn't believe me, but she dropped it. She cared more about whether I'd made the lasagna she'd requested. At the office, I was a different person. Respected. My opinion valued. My decisions carried weight. The young employees, initially skeptical, now came to me for advice. Even the conservative board members, who'd bristled at my appointment, acknowledged my competence. "Mrs. Taft, you've done an amazing job with the debt restructuring," one said. "I think we all underestimated you." I just nodded, accepting the compliment, a quiet smile playing on my lips, imagining Harlan's face if he heard his mother spoken of with such respect. But at home, the tension was thick. Harlan and Daisy were determined to wring every last drop from me. Now, on top of everything, I was cleaning the house, cooking, childcare, laundry, ironing, gardening, walking the dog, and tutoring Elliot in math. "Mom, you're an accountant," Harlan would say, ignoring my exhaustion. "Explain these fractions." "I don't have time." "And I do." I finally snapped. Harlan stared, as if I'd spoken a foreign language. "Of course, you have time. What else do you do? Your volunteer work is just a hobby we graciously allow you. You have a roof over your head, food to eat. What more do you want? Instead of complaining, you should be grateful we took you in." The conviction in his voice was chilling. He truly believed he was doing me a huge favor. It hit me then, how wide the chasm between us was. He didn't see me as a person, but a function. A tool. Nothing I could say would change that. From that moment, I started counting the days. Every morning, leaving for work, one more day. Every evening, returning to that house. This is temporary. My growing detachment must have been obvious. Daisy became outright rude. The kids openly ignored me. Harlan's tone grew increasingly irritated. Then, in mid-July, when my bank account finally held enough for a first month's rent, it all came to a head. It was a Saturday, my supposed day off. The office had a cleaning day, and I'd told my family I was doing inventory at the library. I planned to look at apartments. But Harlan and Daisy had other plans. "Mom," Harlan announced at breakfast, "Daisy, and I want to see that new movie. Will you watch the kids?" "I have some things planned today," I said cautiously. "What things?" Daisy didn't even look up from her phone. "You have the day off. You could be doing something useful, spending time with your grandchildren." "I have a doctor's appointment," I lied, knowing they wouldn't believe me anyway. "The orthopedist for my arthritis." "I've been waiting 2 months." "Reschedule it," Harlan shrugged. "It's not that urgent." "I can't reschedule," I tried to say firmly. "The doctor's very busy. The next appointment won't be until September." "So what?" Daisy interjected. "You can wait until September. You won't fall apart. We want to go to the movies." My patience snapped. "I help you every single day. I cook, clean, pick up the kids, help with homework. Can I have one day to myself?" "To yourself?" Harlan asked, as if I'd said something insane. "What would you do with yourself? You're retired. You don't have a job, hobbies, or friends. Your life is us, your family." "I have my own life," I said quietly, but with steel. "And my own needs." "What needs does an old woman have?" Daisy snorted, not looking up. "The main need at your age is to be useful to your family. Not a burden." I looked from her to Harlan, who was nodding vigorously. The conversation was pointless. They truly saw me as less than human. I'm sorry, I said, rising from the table. But I can't babysit tonight. I have to go to the doctor. Didn't you hear what we said? Harlan's voice rose. You're not going anywhere. You're staying with the kids. No. My voice was firm. For the very first time. I'm not staying. Harlan's face turned beet red. He jumped up, looming over me. What do you mean no? You live in my house. You eat my food. You'll do what I tell you. I am your mother, I tried to say calmly, though I was trembling. Not your servant. And I have a right to my own time. What right? He roared. You live here out of the goodness of our hearts. Do you understand? If it weren't for us, you'd be living alone in your ramshackle hole, counting pennies until you died. His words stung. Not because they were true. I knew I could now afford a much better life than his, but because they laid bare his contempt, his utter lack of respect. I'm leaving, I said, feeling a strange, chilling calm. I'm going to see the doctor now. We'll talk tonight, when you've calmed down. I turned to leave, but Harlan grabbed my arm, squeezing my wrist. Painful. You're not going anywhere, he hissed. I told you, you're staying with the kids. Let go. I struggled. You're hurting me. Hurting you. He laughed, a cruel, malicious sound. You don't know what hurting is yet, you ungrateful old hag. We took you in, gave you a home, and instead of gratitude, you throw a scene. Daisy was still on her phone, utterly unconcerned. Let me go, Harlan. I repeated, now, or what? He squeezed even tighter. What are you going to do, you beggar? Where will you go without us? Who needs you? Something snapped inside me. Years of hurt, humiliation, and rejection exploded. I yanked my hand free, and to my own surprise, I screamed. I need myself. I am a human being, not a thing. I am your mother who raised you alone after your father died, who worked 2 jobs so you could go to college. And this is how you thank me. By treating me like a servant. By humiliating me in front of my own grandchildren. My voice echoed. Everyone froze. Daisy actually looked up from her phone. The kids gaped stunned. But Harlan quickly regained his composure. How dare you raise your voice to me in my own house, he hissed, grabbing his mug of hot tea from the table. He didn't finish the sentence. Instead, he threw the hot tea straight at my face. Scalding liquid ran down my cheeks, neck, and chest. It soaked my blouse. I screamed, a raw, shocked sound. Get out, you beggar. Harlan roared, shoving me towards the door. Get out of my house. You're no longer part of this family. You're nobody. Do you hear me? Nobody. Stunned, face burning, blouse clinging wetly to me, I stumbled backwards. Harlan's eyes burned with a fury I'd never seen. Behind him, Daisy and the children stood motionless, indifferent, as if this was just a normal Saturday argument, not the brutal expulsion of an old woman from her home. Pack your things and get out, he screamed. 10 minutes. Then I'm throwing everything out onto the street. I turned silently and went to my room. My hands shook. My face felt like it was on fire, not just from the tea, but from the humiliation. But strangely, underneath it all, was an eerie emptiness. It was like the last thread connecting me to this house, to these people, had finally snapped. I quickly threw essentials into a small bag, documents, my phone, a few changes of clothes. The rest could be replaced. Right now, I just needed to escape. As I passed the kitchen, I heard Daisy's voice, a casual comment. Maybe you shouldn't have been so harsh. She is your mother. I don't care, Harlan snapped. She crossed the line. Let her live her own life. We'll see how she manages without us. I quietly opened the front door and stepped out. It was a beautiful, sunny morning. Neighbors were gardening, walking dogs. A perfectly normal summer day. I walked slowly down the sidewalk, not looking back. My face still burned. My blouse felt wretched. But I felt lighter. As if a crushing weight had been lifted. Where to now? I thought, stopping at the corner. I had money, yes, but no place to stay. I could call Sybil or Frank, but I didn't want to drag them into this mess just yet. I pulled out my new phone and called a taxi to the nearest hotel. I could afford it now. A new life. One where there was no place for those who didn't appreciate or respect me. Sitting on the bench, waiting, I found myself smiling. For the first time in months, I felt truly, wonderfully free. The Riverview Hotel felt like a palace. That spacious room, the soft bed, the big bathroom, pure luxury after Harlan's cramped guest room. First thing I did? A long, hot shower. It washed away not just the sticky tea, but all the bitterness of the past few months. There were red burn marks. Nothing too serious, thankfully. The hotel manager even brought a first aid kit. Sitting on the bed, I finally let it sink in. My own son. Kicked me out. Poured hot tea on me. Called me a beggar. Threw me out like trash. In front of his wife and kids, who just watched. But instead of the despair I expected, there was only a strange emptiness. And a quiet bitterness. The last thread connecting me to Harlan had finally snapped, freeing me from all the false hope that our relationship could ever work. I pulled out my phone and, after a moment, dialed Raymond. It was his day off, but he answered immediately. "Gwendolyn, is something wrong?" His concern was a balm to my raw nerves. Holding back tears, I told him, briefly, what had happened. "My God," Raymond gasped. "That's awful. Are you okay? Do you need medical attention?" "No, just minor burns," I said. "I'm at the Riverview Hotel." "Stay there," he ordered. "I'll call my friend at a real estate agency. We'll find you a proper place, not just a temporary shelter." Talking to Raymond made me feel a little better. I had a job, money, and now a prospect for a real home. Not bad for a woman my age, just kicked out by her own son. My next call was to Sybil. I didn't want to bother her, but I needed at least one of my kids to hear my side before Harlan gave his. "Mom?" Sybil answered, surprised. "You never call on Saturdays." "I'm not living with Harlan anymore," I said. No beating around the bush. "What? Why? What happened?" I told her everything, trying to be objective. But even my calm retelling of the hot tea incident made her gasp. "Oh my God, Mom, that's awful. Do you want Dominic and me to come get you? Or you can fly out to Portland." "No, honey," I said gently. "I'll be fine. I have a job and money for housing." "A job?" Sybil asked, confused. "You mean the library volunteering? Does that pay?" That was it. Time to tell the truth. At least to Sybil, my most understanding child. "Actually, Sybil," I confessed, "I'm not a volunteer. I'm the chief financial officer of Pierce Construction. And I make $75,000 a month." Silence. Then, Sybil burst out laughing. "Mom, you're joking, right? $75,000 a month." "It's true," I said, a small smile forming. "Raymond Pierce offered me the job 2 months ago. I kept it a secret from Harlan and his family because, well, you know why." We talked for nearly an hour. Sybil bombarded me with questions, still offering to fly out. I assured her I could handle it, but promised to keep her updated. After Sybil, I called Frank. He's never been as emotional, but I could hear his genuine outrage about Harlan and his relief that I was okay. The next morning, Raymond called. "Gwendolyn, my friend Marcus, the real estate agent, found something special. It's an apartment in River Heights, new gated community, pool, spa. 2 bedrooms, Riverview. Want to see it today?" I agreed, though I doubted it was in my budget. River Heights was the prestigious address in San Antonio. Marcus, an energetic man in his 50s, met me there. The grounds were stunning, manicured lawns, fountains, blooming shrubs. The apartment itself? Breathtaking. A huge living room with panoramic river views, a modern kitchen, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, even a small study. When Marcus named the price, I was floored. It was well within my new means. "The owner is going abroad for 3 years," Marcus explained, "wants a reliable tenant. I told him all about you, CFO of a reputable company, recommended by Raymond Pierce himself. He's agreed to a long-term lease at a fixed rate, with the right of first refusal if you decide to buy." The next day, I signed the lease. By evening, my few belongings were moved from the hotel. The empty rooms felt a little sterile, but I knew that was temporary. Now, I had the means to make it a home. Monday morning, I went to work with renewed energy. My colleagues noticed. I looked brighter, more focused. For the next 2 weeks, I poured myself into my new life. Days at the office, working with Raymond, preparing the company for sale. Evenings furnishing my apartment, furniture, dishes, textiles. Slowly, that empty space transformed into a home. I even indulged in a few luxuries, a designer sofa, an orthopedic mattress I'd always dreamed of, a beautiful dining set. Each new item felt like a declaration of my new identity, a successful, independent woman. One evening, Raymond and I were working late, discussing negotiations. He looked at me suddenly. "How do you get to work, Gwendolyn?" "By taxi," I replied. "It's convenient from River Heights, not far." "Why don't you buy a car?" Raymond suggested. "Your contract includes a company car. You haven't used it." I realized he was right. Moving, settling in, I hadn't even thought about it. "I haven't driven in years," I admitted. After Lester died, Harlan took our only car when he went to college. I just got used to public transport. "But you know how to drive?" Raymond asked. "Of course. Just out of practice." "Then it's settled." He smiled, that determined smile. "Tomorrow, we're picking out a car for you. And not just any boring little runabout, Gwendolyn. Something befitting your new status." The next day, despite his failing health, Raymond drove me. Not just to a car dealership, but to a Jaguar dealership. One of the most prestigious in the city. "Raymond, this is too much," I protested, seeing the gleaming luxury cars. "I don't need something so expensive." He turned to me serious. "Gwendolyn, I won't be around much longer. I want to do something good for people who deserve it. Please, let me do this." The sales manager, who clearly recognized Raymond, ushered us in. "Something elegant, with character," he said, looking me over. "May I suggest the F-Type? Our sports convertible. Amazing handling, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, absolute comfort." He led us to a dark blue beauty with a cream leather interior. It looked like a work of art. He arranged a test drive. Raymond stayed in the showroom, not well enough for the excitement. For the first few minutes, I was overwhelmed. So many buttons. Such sensitive pedals. A powerful engine. But under the instructor's calm guidance, I slowly got the hang of it. And then, on the highway, feeling that power, that speed, a wave of pure exhilaration washed over me. "You're doing great," the instructor praised. "For someone who hasn't driven in so long, you have excellent reflexes." Back in the showroom, I knew I couldn't not have that car. It was my new life, embodied, bright, fast, full of possibility. 2 days later, a dark blue Jaguar F-Type, gleaming and magnificent, sat in my parking space at River Heights. The company paid for it, part of my compensation. They even arranged intensive driving lessons. The world, it felt, had finally opened up to me. With my own apartment, a prestigious job, and a luxury car, I felt 10 years younger. I was bursting with energy. Long walks along the riverfront, swimming in the complex pool, even yoga classes for seniors. My transformation wasn't just internal. I updated my wardrobe, elegant, modern clothes that flattered me. A stylist at a salon gave me a fresh cut and taught me how to do natural makeup. "You've literally blossomed, Gwendolyn," Raymond remarked, seeing me in a new lavender suit. "You look 15 years younger." "I feel like I have," I admitted. "It's like I've started my life over again." And it was true. For the first time in years, I felt like a whole person. Not just a function, mother, grandmother, housekeeper, but a woman with her own desires, ambitions, and the absolute right to happiness. Sybil and Frank were thrilled. Sybil even flew out for a weekend to see my new apartment and, of course, the car. "My goodness, Mom, you look amazing," she exclaimed, hugging me at the airport. "And that's your car? Seriously?" We had a wonderful weekend, dining out, talking. Sybil said she'd never seen me so happy, so vibrant. "You know, I always worried about you," she confessed, as we watched the sunset from my balcony. "I thought you'd end up alone in your old house, pinching pennies. And when you moved in with Harlan, I just knew something was wrong, but I didn't realize how bad." "I didn't either," I admitted. Not until I had a chance to see it from the outside. After Sybil left, Frank visited. He took 3 days off work and flew from Chicago. He just shook his head, respectfully, seeing my new life. Wow, Mom. You showed us all up. He's more practical, so he helped me with my new tech, installed a security system, even hung shelves. You know, he said as we parted, I always knew you were special, but you've exceeded all expectations. His words touched me deeply. For the first time, two of my children saw me not just as mom, but as a person with my own achievements and strengths. Work continued to go well. Raymond and I finalized the company's restructuring and started negotiations with potential buyers. Raymond's health was deteriorating rapidly. He only came to the office once a week, mostly working from home or the hospital. But his mind remained sharp. We were a well-oiled team. In early August, Raymond called me to his home. He was mostly bedridden now, but his mind was still clear. Gwendolyn, he said, as I sat by his bed, my folder of documents on my lap. Any news on potential buyers? Yes, I smiled. Good news. Bradford Industries raised their offer to $120 million. Lawyers are drafting the contract now. Excellent. Raymond smiled weakly. I hope I live to see the signing. Don't say that, I said, covering his hand. You will see your company pass into good hands. We discussed business, then the conversation took an unexpected turn. How's your son? Raymond asked. You haven't mentioned contact since that incident. None, I shook my head. He called a few times, left messages, but I didn't call back. That's probably for the best, Raymond nodded. But my daughter told me something interesting. Her husband works at the insurance company where Harlan used to be. Turns out, Harlan was fired for a serious mistake. Cost them a major client. I see. I felt a slight pang of regret, but that was all. That's not all, Raymond continued. Rumor has it he's in serious financial trouble. The bank's threatening foreclosure. He and his wife are trying to sell their house, but the market's not great. I stayed silent. On one hand, he was my son, no matter how he'd treated me. But on the other, I couldn't shake the feeling of higher justice. I'm not telling you this to gloat, Raymond said gently, seeing my confusion. Just thought you should know. Maybe it's time to get your things from his house before it's too late. Maybe you're right, I replied thoughtfully. Photos, letters, a few mementos I hadn't grabbed that day. Then don't put it off, Raymond advised. And don't let him hurt you again. You deserve better. That evening, I called Sybil. She confirmed everything Raymond had said and more. Daisy called me last week, Mom. They're desperate. Harlan can't find a new job. He was fired with no references. They're selling their house, their car, everything. Daisy even asked if I could lend them money. And what did you say? I asked, my voice calm. That we're in a tight spot ourselves, Sybil replied. And it's true. Dominic's promotion is on hold, and education costs for the kids, you know. I know, dear, I said gently. You did the right thing. Mom, Sybil's voice softened. Don't you think you should help them? I know Harlan did a terrible thing, but he's still your son. I thought about it. Help Harlan? After all the humiliation? After he threw me out, poured hot tea on me? I don't know, I replied honestly. I need to think. But first, I'm getting my things. I'll call him tomorrow. I sat on my balcony that night, looking out at the city lights, contemplating the strange twists of fate. For months ago, I was a powerless pensioner, a free servant in my son's house. Now, a successful CFO with a luxury apartment and a sports car. And Harlan, who treated me so cruelly, was desperate. Was this karma? Or just coincidence? What should I do? Help him? Or let him face the consequences? The next morning, I called Harlan. He answered almost immediately, his voice laced with an unsettling eagerness. Mom? Is that really you? Yes, Harlan, I said, keeping my voice steady. I'd like to pick up my things from your place. When can I come over? Of course, he said, unusually helpful. You can come anytime. I'll be home all day. Then I'll come tomorrow around 11. Okay, Mom. And I wanted to say I'm really glad you called. We missed you. I almost laughed. Just a few months ago, he'd called me a beggar and thrown me out. Now he missed me? Had Sybil told him about my job? Or was he so desperate he'd humble himself for cash? See you tomorrow, Harlan, I said, and hung up, ignoring his sudden sentimentality. The next morning, I dressed meticulously. An elegant ivory-sheath dress, low heels, minimalist gold jewelry. I did my hair, my makeup. Looking in the mirror, I barely recognized the confident, well-groomed woman staring back. What a difference from the downtrodden old woman I'd been. At precisely 10:30, I got into my Jaguar and headed for Harlan's house. The weather was perfect, bright August sunshine, a light breeze. Ideal for a top-down drive. The car glided smoothly, attracting admiring glances. Who would have thought, at 68, I'd be driving a sports convertible and loving every second? As I turned onto Harlan Street, my heart quickened. I hadn't been back since that day. The neighborhood looked the same, neat houses, trimmed lawns, kids' bikes on driveways. But now I saw it all as an outsider. And Harlan's house, it stood out, and not in a good way. The lawn was overgrown, oil stains marred the driveway, and a for sale sign leaned sadly on the grass. I parked the Jaguar right out front. Turned off the engine. Took a moment to compose myself. What did I feel? Almost nothing, surprisingly. No burning anger. No deep resentment. No desire for gloating revenge. Just a calm certainty. This chapter of my life was over. I was here to close it. I got out, straightened my shoulders, and walked to the front door. Before I could ring, it swung open. Harlan. He looked haggard, thinner. Sunken eyes, dark circles, more gray in his hair. Mom, he exclaimed with exaggerated joy. I'm so glad to see you. He took a step as if to hug me, but I subtly stepped back. He stopped awkwardly, lowering his arms. Hello, Harlan, I said calmly. I've come for my things. Yes, of course, he nodded, his smile forced. Come in, please. Daisy's made tea and cookies. I stepped inside. The house was different. Some furniture was gone, pictures stripped from the walls. What remained looked neglected, dreary. A strange smell hung in the air, stale food, dust, desolation. Daisy was waiting in the living room, in what looked like her best dress, outdated and unflattering. Elliot and Nora sat on the sofa, unusually quiet, clearly embarrassed. Gwendolyn. Daisy gushed, stepping forward with a fake smile. How wonderful to see you. You look stunning. Her voice held genuine surprise as her eyes swept over my outfit, my hair, my jewelry. Everything's so different from the old me. Thank you, Daisy, I nodded. You too. You look well. A blatant lie. She looked exhausted, her makeup smeared, hair dull. Please sit down, Harlan said, gesturing. Tea? Coffee? No, thank you, I replied, remaining standing. I don't have much time. I just want to pick up my things. Yes, of course, Harlan rubbed his hands nervously. I packed everything into boxes. They're in the garage. But maybe you'd like to stay for a while? We haven't seen each other in so long. And whose fault is that? I asked, my voice low but firm. Harlan blushed, his eyes dropping. Mom, we're all very sorry about what happened. I wasn't myself. I said terrible things. It's unforgivable, I know, but maybe we could start over. I studied him. His eyes showed despair, yes, but not genuine remorse. He was like a drowning man, grabbing at straws. Harlan, I said calmly, let's not pretend. You found out about my new job from Sybil or Frank, didn't you? You decided I could help you with money. That's why you suddenly missed your family ties. What? No. He feigned indignation. How could you think that? We all missed you. Right, kids? Elliot and Nora nodded in unison, faces impassive. A charade. Mom, I heard you're working at your old company now, Harlan continued, switching tactics. That's great. I always knew you were a great professional. And is that your car outside? Impressive. Yes, I allowed myself a small smile. That's my Jaguar. Company car. Part of my compensation package as CFO, Chief Financial Officer. Daisy gasped, unable to hide her surprise. But you said you were a volunteer at the library. I lied, I replied simply. I didn't want you to know about my real job. Or my salary. Salary. Harlan leaned forward, hungry. And how much do you make, if you don't mind me asking? $75,000 a month, I said calmly, simply stating a fact. The room fell silent. Harlan froze, mouth open. Daisy went pale. The children, for the first time, looked genuinely interested, exchanging wide-eyed glances. 75,000 a month, Harlan repeated slowly, as if the words were foreign. But that's more than you made in a year at the insurance company, I finished for him. Yes, he finally found his voice. Life is full of irony, isn't it, Mom? That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. You know, it's for the best that it turned out this way. You've gained independence, a new life, thanks to you kicking me out of the house and pouring hot tea on me. I raised an eyebrow. Well, that's not what I meant, he stammered, embarrassed. It's just, everything's for the best, right? Maybe I agreed. But don't pretend you wanted to help me. You wanted to get rid of the burden, as you called me. Mom, I was wrong. Harlan took a step toward me, his voice pleading. I admit it. I acted terribly. But we all make mistakes, right? Didn't you teach us to forgive? Yes, I nodded. And I forgive you, Harlan. But that doesn't mean I'll forget. Or that I'll put myself at risk of being treated that way again. But we've changed. Daisy interjected, moving closer, her voice sickly sweet. The last few months have been so difficult. We've reevaluated a lot of things. Yeah, I couldn't resist the sarcasm, especially when you found out I make $75,000 a month. Gwendolyn, we're truly sorry. Daisy pressed. And we'd like you to be part of our family again. You mean you'd like my money to be part of your family? I corrected her. Let's be honest, at least now. Mom, don't be like that, Harlan pleaded again. Of course, things are tough financially, but it's not about the money. It's just that we've realized how much you mean to us. I sighed. His insincerity was almost suffocating. Where are my things, Harlan? I asked, cutting through the performance. In the garage, he said, visibly deflated. I'll walk you out. We walked through the kitchen to the garage. There were 3 cardboard boxes, neatly labeled Mom. That's everything, Harlan said. I tried not to forget anything. Your photo albums, books, personal items. I opened a box. Everything looked right. Thanks, I nodded. Can you help me carry them to the car? Harlan grabbed 2 boxes. I took the 3rd, lightest one. We walked out. Daisy and the kids followed, not wanting to miss the end of the show. Wow, Elliot breathed, speaking for the first time. Is that really your car, Grandma? Yes, Elliot, I said, opening the Jaguar's trunk, which easily swallowed the boxes. Cool, he muttered, grudging admiration in his voice. Harlan carefully placed the boxes and turned to me. Mom, please. Let's talk. I know I did a terrible thing, but I'm your son. Your flesh and blood. Can you give me a second chance? I looked at him. My son. The man I had raised alone, sacrificed everything for. But in his eyes, I saw only calculation and despair, no love, no real remorse. You know, Harlan, I said calmly, when you kicked me out, you called me a beggar. You said I was nobody. That I was living here out of the goodness of your heart. You didn't see me as a person, just a function. A convenient servant. I was wrong, he said, lowering his eyes. I didn't mean it. No, I shook my head. You did. And you know what the saddest part is? I almost believed you. I almost believed I was nobody. That I didn't deserve respect or a decent life. But now, I know that's not true. I closed the trunk and walked to the driver's side. Mom, please. Harlan followed. We're on the verge of bankruptcy. The bank's taking the house. I don't have a job. The kids could end up on the street. I'm sorry you're in this situation, I said, genuinely. But you're a grown man, Harlan. You'll manage. But you could help. His voice took on that familiar, demanding tone. You make a fortune, and your own son could end up homeless. Like you once said to me, I opened the car door. Let's see how you manage without us. Now it's your turn to find out the answer to that question. You can't do this. Harlan's voice became hysterical. I'm your son. Yes, you are my son, I said, getting behind the wheel. And that's exactly why I'm not just going to give you money. It won't help you become a better person. Maybe when you face the consequences of your actions, you'll finally learn to appreciate other people and treat them with respect. I started the engine. The powerful roar made Harlan take a step back. Goodbye, Harlan, I said. I wish you and your family all the best. Mom, he made one last desperate attempt. You can't just leave. We're family. Family isn't just blood, I replied. It's mutual respect, care, and support. When you're ready for a real family relationship, you know where to find me. With that, I pulled away, leaving Harlan, Daisy, and the children standing on the driveway, their faces a mixture of confusion and anger. As I drove onto the highway, a strange sense of relief washed over me. Not malice, not vengeful satisfaction, just relief. As if a heavy weight had finally lifted. For the first time in years, I was completely free. Free from guilt. From false responsibility. From toxic relationships. That evening, I sat on my apartment balcony, sipping a glass of fine wine, watching the San Antonio lights sparkle. The boxes from Harlan's house sat, still unpacked, in the corner of my living room. I'd sort them tomorrow with a clear head. My phone rang. It was Sybil. Mom? How did it go? Her voice was worried. Fine, I replied calmly. I got my things. And left. And Harlan? Did he ask for help? Yes, I smiled. As soon as he found out about my salary, he suddenly remembered I was his beloved mother. And what did you decide? Sybil asked cautiously. I refused, I said simply. Not because I want to get back at him, but because it won't help him become a better person. He has to deal with the consequences himself. Silence on the line. Then, Sybil said softly, you know, Mom? I think you're right. Harlan has always been complicated. Maybe this is exactly what he needs. Maybe, I agreed. Time will tell. I went back to the balcony. The night was warm, a light breeze carrying the scent of blooming trees from the waterfront. Distant music, laughter. It's strange, isn't it? Just 6 months ago, I was a dependent, downtrodden old woman my own son saw as a burden. Now, I was a successful, financially independent woman with my own home, my own car, and most importantly, my own sense of self-worth. Money certainly changed my life for the better, giving me freedom, comfort, and opportunities one never had. But true wealth didn't come with a bank account. It came with the realization of my own value, the ability to defend my boundaries, and the courage to live the way I believe is right. So, I'm curious. If you were in my shoes after everything, would you have done the same? Or would you have helped your son? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.